story? What was it like in the engine room?
Yeah, probably I'd say similar storyline. I'd say I think it's probably been publicly said our first 20 minutes was actually pretty decent, but you know, when you reflect on a game and score like the way that sort of blew out in the end, and sort of set piece battle in the second half especially, that doesn't mean too much. So I guess for us looking forward, it's how can we turn that 20 into an 80-minute performance, because I truly believe that we were applying pressure in the right areas of the field. We had them under pressure, especially scoring first was great, but we just couldn't maintain that.
And Pumas have got a pretty powerful scrum as well, so you're expecting a good test this week?
Yeah, especially a checker-driven team. Set piece wise, I don't think they had their finest day last week, so they, I think naturally you're going to have a rebound. So for us, it's going to be a big challenge this weekend. They pride themselves passionately on set piece. They get a lot of energy through that, and yes, definitely scrum line out wise, it's going to be big.
What's come out of that review, particularly in that sort of second quarter, which just what South Africa did really well, just kind of take that game away from you?
Yeah, I think they've got quality depth, and they've been together for a while. They've had games under the belt together to nail process, so it's automatic. For us, I just think we went away from our process a little bit in the second half. Again, we started strong the first 20, everything was good, and then when the fatigue kicks in, it can get away from you, and then it's just a momentum game. If they get one scrum on top of another, then it's hard to fight back that. So I guess for us, the work on is making sure that our processes are down packed, and we're in the fight.
Just on building those processes and that continuity as well. I mean, there's only 4 tests left till that World Cup opener. Is that something how do you sort of replicate that in training, and just trying to fast track it with such little time?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You replicate it in training. Such small amount of games that each day, each week, you need to be nailing it on training, and then it just becomes, as I said, automatic. So you rip it into the games, and you know what each other wants. You know how to fault correct on the run. But yeah, we can't just leave it up to the weekend and have 4 more opportunities to get that right. That needs to be an everyday thing, and luckily when we're in camp, it can be an everyday thing.
Just a set piece, scrum particularly. Like Alan obviously was coming back from the calf injury, so how many reps had you guys had with everyone training full body?
No, enough, and also we've got some last year in the bank, and I don't particularly ever think it falls down on one person at all. It's always a pack thing. Whilst to the naked eye or to the person that probably doesn't understand the scrums, it might look like one individual, but to me it's an all-8 thing, and we were in the challenge. We were up for it for the first 20, and then we fell away. So it's a pack mentality for us. So all I need to be switched on for the full 80.
And Quade, is when you have it like a typical kind of night where the backs get very little ball, is it almost a good learning experience to kind of go, well, we've only got 35% of the ball, X amount of phases, but how can we do it better next time if you don't get that front foot platform that you want?
Yeah, that's certainly part of the messaging. But it's also the opportunities that you do get. So like that 30% odd that you're talking about, making the most of those, because we certainly left a lot of opportunities out on the field in terms of just creating space. So there was a few times where the opportunity was on, and say we had a turnover at the breakdown. And that's not a forward thing, that's the 2 closest blokes there getting in, securing that ball, and then allowing us to take those opportunities. So there's a hell of a lot of great things that came out of that game. There's a lot of tough lessons as well. But the lessons are there for us to be, they will be lessons if we learn from them, and we'll take them forward this week.
I think this is a corresponding fixture since you did your injury last year, somewhere around that. How are you feeling, Quade, like physically, form-wise, how much you've got left? How many years can you go up?
Yeah, I mean, like it's technically it's my 3rd game of footy, so for me, I'm excited to have the opportunity to get back out there. In terms of, I think it's more so around the team just gelling, getting time in the saddle together. more time on the training paddock. We'll continue to improve from there. Pork sort of touched on it before. We've got X amount of days that we get to be together, X amount of days that we get to learn and connect with each other, build on the field there, take that into the game and just continue to build on this road to the World Cup.
Are you ahead or behind where you thought you might have been?
I mean, like I've been on the field, you know. So if I'm on the field, I'm where I need to be. You know, like in terms of it being a corresponding game, you know, I'm looking forward to that challenge. It's similar to like the first time I ran again, my first running session. I grabbed the boots that I hurt my Achilles in, and I put them straight back on. Rather than, you know, I guess for myself in the past, maybe I would have thrown those boots out when I got injured and thought about it like that, rather than going, hey, the boots, the game, the team that we're playing, that's all irrelevant. It's the work that you do each day that'll put me in a good position to be able to go out there and play well. So for me, whether it's Argentina or South Africa, you know, I know that the training and the work that I've put in will allow me to continue to work forward and progress on this journey.
Quade, you would have played Argentina a bunch of times. I know that last year was only a little while there, but how much have they evolved over the last couple of years as an opponent? Just seeing some of the things they did last year.
Yeah, I think the sort of the beauty of you know, the world game at the moment is so for us, the rugby championship, including them in that, so they're playing against ourselves, New Zealand, South Africa every single year. They were in the Super Rugby for a few years, so you saw the amount of players that got the opportunity to play at a high level. Now, if you look at some of their players playing overseas in some of the best competitions in the world, I think it was Pablo playing at the Crusaders. You had a few of their players playing in France. So it's just the level of exposure that all their players are getting the opportunity to play at high levels and them being in this competition is allowing them to grow. And mate, they're a phenomenal team now. And as I said, like World Rugby at this point, the top 10 teams, mate, on any day, you're getting 10th team beat one of the top teams and so forth. So it's a very challenging sort of landscape for World Rugby at this minute.
When Checker took over, we sort of talked about doing firsts, you know, like ticking off firsts.
Yeah.
And you and Mackenzie used to be like this
Yeah.
as well. Like, could they beat New Zealand away, they won at Twickenham and things like that? How much belief does that give a team? And then does it make them more dangerous when they come here? They're you know, they're looking at knocking you off this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think that any time you play a competitive game, you're trying to knock off the opposition. For them, you know, whatever the motivation that the coach is trying to instill in them, mate, great. You know, we know that they're a phenomenal team. So no matter how you look at it, whether they've got added motivation or less, it's going to be a tough game. And for us, we just have to make sure that we're focusing on ourselves and ourselves getting better in our process. And the more that we focus on our process, and we'll just keep ticking things off as we go, day to day.
Speaking of you know, ticking things off, Carter Gordon coming through in the first couple of weeks and months as a Wallaby, how did you see his arrival at the weekend?
Yeah, man, I was just super happy for him. You know, we're just having a laugh in the team room before because there was a clip that the Wallabies posted on Instagram, which was other debutants who scored on debut. And I was one of those guys, and we're having a little laugh because his try was in 4K, and I think mine was barely in black and white. So we had a good laugh about that, and you know, his performance when he came on, obviously the game was gone at that stage. I felt that he showed what he's all about. He showed that he's got the makings to be a great player, and you know, I want to be there to continue to support him and also challenge him, you know, the same way that we're challenging each other. So I think that you know, for me, when I saw him run onto the field, you know, we had a little yarn on the way past, and see how he went about that, scoring a try, kicking a goal. It's great start to his Test career.
You got to have a pretty, sorry mate, you got to have a pretty calm, flavorable temperament to just be at number 10 in Test footy, don't you? Has he got that?
Yeah, I mean, I think any position, when you're playing Test football and you step onto the field in front of 60-odd thousand people, you might be thrown in a line out, playing as a 10, being a general in the game. There's a reason there's not many people who get the opportunity to do this, and so for myself, I know I'm Wallaby 830, so there's not a lot of people who've had that opportunity. So it's a place that takes a lot of nerves, takes a lot of hard work, and yeah, he's definitely one of those guys. And everybody else who was in that room, and said to the boys the other day on the field, we're all standing in this circle for a reason. You all have something to bring to this team. You all have talent. Let's continue to work hard, and this team can be something.
And there was I think you reacted or something, maybe he reacted to one of your social media posts a couple of years back, and I think you said that, this will be you one day or something or other. Is that right?
Something along those lines, yeah.
When did you guys first kind of get to know one another, or when did you first know Carter's name?
Mate, I roomed with him in Sanctuary Cove when we first come into camp, and we started getting to know each other. But we played golf a few years ago. I think it was 2018, when I sort of finished up at the Reds when I was playing club football. But Stylesy brought him in just to see how he'd go, and we did a backs unit session. And I remember saying to Stylesy at that time, who's now the GM at Melbourne, I said, mate, this kid's good. If you can get him, keep him. He's a great player. And now to see him obviously continue that on to now playing Test match footy. We had a game of golf together back then, and for me it's not necessarily about talking about football and stuff like that. We all know that we're all good footballers. When you're in this environment, you're the best of the best in Australia. So we all know we're talented footballers. But it's just, for me, getting to know him as a man, as a person, that's what I've enjoyed the most.
And Dave, former Manly Marlin, still Manly Marlin. The fact that you're not playing here on the weekend, but the fact you're training here this week must be pretty special, knowing your journey of where you've come, all the hours you put in years and years ago before you went overseas. Yeah,
I'm loving it, mate. You get all the Marlins tragics down, and then showing all the boys where the good coffee spots are around here. But I think just what we've done over the last couple of weeks, and we've gone to Randwick's home ground, we've got a Manly's home ground, just getting that sort of exposure to different communities, I think is awesome. You're having those touch points with those different rugby clubs, and you just get that connection that way. And just having these conversations with some of these old guys and just the young kids who were at training yesterday. That's what I loved when I was growing up. You have those interactions with these players, and that kicks you on to be a footy player in Australia. You want to grow up and be these people, and they're right there. You're watching them. So I'm loving it, mate. It's nice.
Quade, you touched on chatting to the guys after the game. A lot of young guys in the squad. What have you been impressed by how they've just sort of parked last week's result and really turned the focus to this week?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of credit to the coaching as well. Understanding that, mate, one game, although, mate, by no means do we go out there or accept losing. But we know that in the bigger scheme of things, the journey is about what we do every day. And know that once that game's gone, you can't get it back. But what you can do is learn from those lessons and take them forward into the next challenge, which is Argentina. So I think that having young guys in the squad, so many young guys, allows you to do that. Because for them, it's just the next opportunity. And everything we do in life, we're looking for an opportunity. And one game's gone, good or bad, got to move on to the next. And I think that's the mentality of this team, is about, hey, our ultimate goal is lifting the World Cup in October. So we know the work that's got to be done between now and then, and bring that in even more so as between each game. And South Africa was a tough lesson, but we can make that right by doing our job this week against Argentina.
Yeah, Quade, I imagine it's a slightly different Eddie Jones, the one that left Victoria with you guys in 07. That's probably a different message after a game leading into it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all different since then, and like anything in life, we take lessons and we learn and grow from them. I certainly remember myself sitting in that changing room, and you know where I was as basically a child. You know what I mean? So like when I was sitting in the change room on the weekend, you know, I knew I was upset at the loss, but I knew there was a way forward, and that way forward is totally in our control. When I was sitting in that change room as a young kid, you know, I thought it was the end of the world. You know, I wasn't sure that the sun was going to rise the next day. You know, and that's the absolute truth of it. And my whole life was consumed by the result of that game. Whereas now, I understand the result wasn't great. But as I said, there's a way forward. There's work that needed to be done. As soon as we got home, everybody got recovered. We went out onto the field. Sunday morning, we got through some work, and then we jumped on a plane and came here with a focus in mind of getting the job done on Saturday.
Well, just tracking back to that game of golf, can you remember any, like, were you offering bits and pieces of advice about how to get to where it wants to go? Obviously, you've been through a similar circumstance, like you say. You're now marrying up kind of tries under boot. Like, is there stuff that you had already learned that you were able to pass on at that point, and if so, what was it?
Yeah, look, at that stage where I was at in my life, and that, you know, I probably wasn't in a well, I'd gone through a fair bit of stuff, and then I was actually just sort of in the middle of sort of figuring out my own life and where I was going and the direction that I wanted to go in that. You know, so majority of that day was spent me getting tips on how to play golf from him, if anything, you know. So, but as I said, like footy's footy. He's a great footy player. You know, he's got a great head on his shoulders as well.